Hey, you guessed it. No, another video. And I really do apologize to anybody who's watching these, like, subscribes to me and then sees me post like 15 videos a day. That's not my intention. I understand how YouTube works and I apologize for that. It doesn't mean that I'm going to change how I do it, but like at some point I am going to slow down and then go back and like edit the videos. But this is just so I have like the content out there, so it's up there, the ideas are out there, and then if someone can take the ideas and run with it, then that's awesome. Like, maybe share a link in the comments of like what you do. But I mean, until then, I don't know. It's like, oh, it's like, it's like you got to tell the people yesterday. Like the people need to know there's an easier way to do these things, and it is free and all that. Oh, and actually, I got a little ahead of myself, but yeah, no, I saw there's a full pumpkin patch, and so I decided to. But anyways, yeah, no, just yeah. I don't know. Some of it is that like 15 minutes of fame. Some more of it is that trusting others to do it for themselves. And that's important. Oh, sorry, I'm even like evaluating like because as I stopped the last one, I was like, oh, look at me, like kind of even mocking myself. And again, remember, like sorry, I say remember like you've watched all of them. So when I was a little kid, I did the announcements for the school lunch, and that's why I say like so I can just describe that, and it taught me that, oh, that's cool, like people thought it was funny or interesting, and then people got sick pretty quick because then it got desperate, it got weird. And just like when you see like movie stars and actors and actresses, they get all messed up or they spend all their money on drugs or like the fast life, and then they're like, oh, I'm gonna go fix the world. And I don't know, it's just and we've seen these things. It's been like kind of like everybody's been studying each other, and it's been interesting. Like you don't see Real World or the Road Rules anymore. And like that was interesting for a while because that was entertainment. That was television. Like, let's get a bunch of people and let's put them in the same place and then let's get them all drunk and let's have them party and let's have them like hook up with each other and then fight. And then it was like a coliseum. And we used to do coliseums, and then we got Real World and like, all right, now let's see people fight. And then, okay, and then we had The Sims. So, okay, now let's make simulations of people fighting or mating or whatever, or, like, and then it's like, okay, so now, oh, and it's interesting. It's like we all have that scientific mind, but we don't know how to go about it. It's like we're all curious, curious George, like try to figure out, and then, oh, but nope, like that's not. And then it's got to be the weirdos, the witches, like the ones that say that the earth isn't at the center of the universe, or because at one time, like all of these, and I don't even want to try to say their names because I'll butcher it, like all right, sorry, Newton, Galileo, there's a few, Copernicus, um and I've learned about these people, like, and what they did and what their contribution is, and I know that they're important. And then I move on, and then I stand on their shoulders, and we continue to develop and learn and study. And I mean, with respects to them, like we'll never forget, but at the same time, we got a lot of people to never forget. So maybe we need to honor in different ways. And I think it's just not scalable or sustainable. There you go. So I was also trying to explain like why the open source community is kind of cutthroat like it is because it's not a sustainable model. And I've also noticed that in real estate, just observations like uh, deals. Like realtors are more willing to do deals. Like, oh, I'll cut you this, and like ridiculous deals too. Like, oh, and the housing market is cooling off. Prices are slowing down. Interest rates are still high, and I still don't even understand how any of this stuff works. But I studied it in school. And that's the thing. I didn't even study it specifically. Like same with politics and government. That wasn't my focus. I did a couple classes. I maybe paid attention for about 80% of it. And then you feel like the office space where, and in a given week I only do maybe 3 hours of actual work, Bob. Like, which is not, I mean, no, it's not the case in my job now, nor has it ever been. I've been, oh, you want to talk about not overachiever, like not the guy with the too much flair, at tchotchkes or whatever. But the a mix between Jennifer Aniston and that. Like, I was always in between. Like, oh, and that's why I hate selling things because I can't. I can't be that fake excited. I mean, they used to have like Valium back in the day for people to try to fake excitement like that or fake happiness in a marriage or, and then psychiatrists would prescribe some stuff that would just make you loopy and just kind of forget that you're in this thing. And that's only if you're wealthy enough to go to a psychiatrist and get drugs. Like, and so there's the thing, substance use versus substance abuse. The fine line between, oh gosh, wait, do we have time for that? And I did set the alarm, I hope. Let's actually double check because do I trust it? Nah, I did not. All right. So, what is it? 11, 12, 5, 7. So, about 20 minutes. So, 11:25. Ah, whew. Oh, it's going to be a late one tonight. No, that's 13 minutes and that. 13, yeah. 7, that's 20. Oh, so 35. Oh, what? Yep, there we go. Sorry. All right, we got that set. So here's why ending the war on drugs, legalizing cannabis or legalizing marijuana on a federal level would basically fix all of the country's problems. And I say that as in substance use for substance abuse, that we've even developed a synthetic methamphetamine called Adderall that you can get a prescription for if you have health insurance and you have a doctor that you can talk to. And if you, well, I mean, if you have some disorders, but uh, it is so easy to be diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. I mean, it's just like, how much you use technology. Like, I feel like it's, and I don't know. I chuckle at that, and I'm a little worried about that because I know people that have been medicated like their whole lives for these things, and it's like, well, now we're learning more, and that's the thing is like we don't know. We're still learning, and even with psychiatry and like different types of meds, different social disorders, different mental disorders, we're learning, and like and that is something I did study quite a bit in college, like psychology, sociology, um, anthropology, just people and how they act and why they act that way. And it's these things that people that don't go to college don't have these things. And even if you go to college, so that's a percentage of people. And again, took statistics in high school but it was still through Colorado Mountain College because I knew I was going to college. I was like, all right, let's knock out as many credits as we can do on the cheap with community college, and then yeah, because it was all a money game. Like I had no business going to college. Like, geez, like my family was not. Yeah. Anyways, we made it. We figured it out. And that's why I get so upset with people like saying, "Well, just pay your debt. You agreed to it." And it's like, come on, man. Like, I get it. Like, if you think like people are just laughing, like taking advantage of the system, like, haha, I'm not gonna pay for this, and like, why should they, not have to squelch on their debts? But it's okay for some. And I don't know. That's the biggest thing is like try to explain these things and that's why I don't want to get into politics. Because I untangle webs of cords for a living. Like, I don't even want to mess with that big ball of tangled mess. But somebody's got to. And smarter people are. Not smarter, sorry. That's very disrespectful to older generations. But people that are more used to. See, I don't know. And we don't even have to worry about who these people are. It's just the fact of the matter is like, as as we progress as society, it's exponential how much faster. Yeah, so that's a better way to think about it. It's like really everybody is progressing exponentially. It's just some people take a little longer to get comfortable with tech, but they still do. And that is something I've seen. And yeah, I can tell you, like, yeah, I've seen it. I mean, thinking about Pineapple Express and what that one guy's name is, he does pizza commercials now. He's like, I seen it. Hilarious guy. Again, I don't remember names very well, but I remember movies, lines from them, like what they did. I could probably remember their characters' names better sometimes than the actual actors' names. Oh, but anyways. And I don't know. I feel like a lot of that, like idolization, hero worship, glorification, like a lot of that stuff is because we're all trying to figure it out. And like, oh, hey, they're successful. They must know what they're doing. And then like spoilers, they either don't or they got lucky or they happened to exploit the right time. They were at the right place at the right time. But oh, that is so random and happenstance. Like that's not reliable to be. All right, sorry. Back to the substance abuse. I know we kind of detracted there, but seriously, you can get all these crazy, and I mean crazy drugs, like very strong, very powerful sedatives, like all these different things, mood stabilizers, and not saying that, oh, you'll get a hookup, you'll get some good drugs. Like, no, actually, if you go to a therapist and psychiatrist and you get on psych meds, you get drugs that zonk you out. Like, no. And then, or you could get the drugs that could be pretty much like confused for street drugs. Like, I mean, Adderall is not quite synthetic meth. Like, that's just what people call it because it does act eerily like meth, but it's still not the same. And it's also not the same because of the situation. Like, even if it was like legit meth in like a pill, the situation is different because you're taking it as a prescription. If anything goes weird, you could just say, "Oh, I need to talk to my doctor. I'm on a new medication." And right there, everybody that hears that is, "Oh, okay, I understand." But if you're doing street drugs or illegal drugs, and even if you're just trying to self-medicate or anything like that, you're still going to get like, okay, so now you can't do it at home. You can't do it at, in public. You can't. And that's also like, I mean, I'm talking drugs, but also alcohol too. You think about people experiencing homelessness, they get tickets for drinking in public. Well, they don't really have a home to go to, and they can't drink in the bar because they don't have enough money to, or they haven't showered, so they're not welcome, or, so then like trying to solve their problems generates more problems that they didn't realize were going to happen. And then it's a slippery slope. And this is all stuff you learn from like just going to like one or two AA meetings. Like you can listen to the stories and it's all the same, but different. And oh, sorry, that was weird. The air conditioner kicked on and the music at the same time. It's like, oh, and that's one of the things is like the whole God works in mysterious ways. It's one of the biggest boogeymen if I ever heard one. I told you I had a dream that God killed me once, like, and it was partly because I played games like Doom or no, this one was from Wolfenstein 3D, but also I mean, because I was introduced to the idea that there was this like thing that could shoot lasers out of its eyes, and then I had a mode of the imagination like to relate the video game because it looked like it was in video game graphics, and so that's got to be interesting. Like nightmares today, ugh. But I also had pretty vivid nightmares just because of the imagination I had from reading a lot of books too. It's like the more you read, like the whole knowledge is power thing, absolutely true. And if you ever get a chance, watch Kill the Irishman because that's just an awesome movie where it's about this guy that just reads a bunch of books. And no, I'm just kidding. It's it's an Irish gangster movie, but that is part of the shtick. Is like he's a reader and a leader even or inside or outside of his means or legalities or pirates or Robin Hood. Sorry, not pirates, but the Robin Hood. And we tell the stories about that, and it's like, oh, okay, I can see how that is. But then when someone tries to do it in real life, like there was that bank robber that did just that. Like he robbed banks and like he burned up promissory notes, or he just destroyed people's debt. And Fight Club, oh my gosh, like another great movie. But the problem with that is you're not, how do I say this? You're not really doing what you think you're doing. Like it's an illusion that a bunch of wealthy people are just sitting at the top and like, well, yes, there are a bunch of wealthy people at the top. It's more like the Batman movies where there's people trying to do it and maybe they're not moving like breakneck speed like Jesus and giving away all their possessions and all that stuff. Because it's like, yeah, would you? I mean, we all like to say we would, but it's human nature, and that's the thing is like if we're and I hate quoting like all this like scripture and stuff, but then people do that and like to submitting arguments. But let's just say the religious belief is like we were made in God's image. So okay, so right there you're telling me that we were trying to be as close to whatever holy and this and that or whatever it is. So okay, then prove it. We need to try to be it, and that's why I'm more skeptical with like people that try to teach through religion. Maybe it's just because they don't have a better reference, like video games or movies or TV, like or memes. I mean, and that is Sorry, even right there, that was kind of too quick of a move to go from like, okay, here's a Bible, it's been trusted for 2,000 years, or here's the Quran, it's been trusted for, and I'd have to look that up, like, what's the time length on that? Like, see, that's really interesting, because I know, like, cuneiform in Sumer, because that's just been drilled into my head, was like the first form of official writing that we had. It was on clay tablets, and that's the main thing that I remember, because that was the original, and then it was reinforced in my journalism class for communication technology. Because I think we even talked about the tablets in there, although I can't be completely sure. But I think she did mention it when we did the pen day. Like, this pen is a communication technology. I was like, what? What are you talking about? Get out of here. That's a pen. Like, there's nothing tech about it. But if you think about it, there was a patent, there was an inventor, there was thought put into creating that pen. And is it a ballpoint pen, a fountain pen? Like, or are those even the same? I don't even know, but I'd have to look into that. I'm not a pen expert, but I do know that the pens that I used to write with, there was a lot of innovation that went into that. And there's also byproducts too. Is like people use it as advertising because it's like, here, have a pen. And then every time you use this pen, you'll think of this. But then it's like, okay, well, we can't really afford to give away nice pens. So here's a cheap pen that's probably going to break like after 10 uses. But think of me when you do it. And I don't know. And it's these things. And like, and you can't blame them because marketing, I don't know. I almost feel like now we're trying to create industries just to make sure that everybody has jobs. And that actually sounds really specific because we're all about job creation, job growth. Like, are people employed? Are they unemployed? And a lot of that is because people think that other people don't work. It's like if they're on unemployment or, food stamps or anything like that, yeah, they don't work. Oh, and the minute they go on unemployment, oh, they are a lazy vagabond that they've never worked a day in their life. It's like, now, come on now. I mean, first off, and I have seen firsthand, like, you can't go on unemployment for too long. Like, it runs out, and it runs out quick. And that's like, and it gets better the better job you have, but it is directly relational to how much. And I think it was explained to me once, but like, it's actually paid for through your employer through their unemployment insurance. So, and see, again, these are the things I didn't learn this during, tax season. I didn't know taxes. I learned parallelograms. So during this parallelogram season, but no, there should definitely be more of a focus on, well, two things. We need to approach taxes and all of that stuff in a 2 point approach. Like, we need to, first off, lower taxes in general. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But at the same time, we need to lower the expenses that cause the high taxes. So then you get into like the war and all that stuff. And, ugh, our industry, wait, okay, whatever. A lot of our economy is dependent on it. And we do. We have a lot of investment in all of these military bases all over the world. And granted, I get it. Even as I say that, well, then why have so many military bases? Well, I feel like this is easiest explained in the concept of I feel like I can do it better here, just let me do it. And like people in families and people with kids know that while you can let a kid do it because they're learning and it's cute and you want them to do it and you want them to succeed, but then at some point, if you're in a hurry or something, and this is what bugs me, and I really try not to do this with my own kids, and I realize, when I'm, oh gosh, like the instant I even cross a line like this, like I'm not saying it happens a lot, but like if I judge too quickly, I got to be patient. And saying stuff like that, like it's very similar to stuff you'd hear from like a really religious household, like, oh, don't judge too quickly or something like that. But so we're all saying a lot of the same things. It's just being said in different ways. And like, I don't know. But the point is when you're raising a kid, you want them to do it. You want them to learn. You want to see them learn. You want, oh, it's so exciting. And, and even in my situation, we had well, because we were in this whole like earn while you learn program, so we were getting like assistance that way. I was getting classes to teach me, and this was through like a religious thing, but I was getting tested for STDs, so that's how I knew about the program. But anyway, sorry. It's like I just say, I'm no saint, and that's fine. And I'm saying everybody should be able to do these things, have access to healthcare to where you can get tested for STDs and see if you're pregnant or, this or that or all of these things that you don't need to worry about if your family's wealthy because they have it just secured and they take care of it for you. And then that leads to problems down the road for rich kids because they're kind of spoiled accidentally because they don't understand what's going on. Um, and yeah. And spoiled's not really the right word. Like, it's not their fault that they don't know. It's a different universe. It's an unseen perspective that they're unaware of. Like, oh, I never saw it from this way. Like, or I never thought about it that way before. That can be said about everything, every livelihood, every culture, like, until you see a few, it's a real shocker. And then you're like, oh, other people are just people out doing people things. Like, that's the thing too. Like, I don't know. National Geographic is great, but I think it was also did a disservice to the world by showing all of these like tribes. And it's like, oh, look at the monkeys, and oh, look at that tribe. It's like, okay, you just equated an entire people to a bunch of monkeys. Like, that's horribly disgraceful, and then also not accurate. Like, even people that still live in a tribal way through their choice or not choice. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say what happens to cultures that kind of brings them into new ages and eras, culture, society. I mean, and then you start seeing like pieces of artwork and things that, are so profound and thought provoking. It's like, oh, like who are the real monsters? And then it's a mirror or something like that. But then you also think about things like, who are the real civilized people, like the tribal people or, the people that live in cities. It's like, well, okay, the cities, but we do have our flaws, and rather than fix them, we're driven by greed, which, okay, so right there, one of the things that we were warned to watch out for. Um, because it's not a bad book. It's just bad what people do with it. Like, people manipulate it, they hold it up for a photo op, and then that absolves them of all guilt. Like, or what is it? Dogma says it the best. Like, the angels just have to walk through the arch and they can go through mass genocide. They're just killing all these people. They're like, oh, we just got to walk through the church doors because there's a loophole that they're like, oh, if you just pray at the end of your life. And they were making a joke at like people that repent right before they die. It's like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Like, I get it, you're scared, you're gonna do this, but hold on, what about the people that lived good their whole life? Like, and right there's the argument with people on unemployment versus people that are working. Then it's easy to assume, and remember, I was mad at people getting unemployment during the pandemic until I was one. I wasn't like mad, like I wasn't like vocal about it because I try not to do that anyway, but I held a grudge. I was just like, huh, must be nice to just, because I'm out there working. It was a weird time. Like, it was the cops out and us, like, because they were pulling people over that weren't supposed to be out. We had a thing in our wallet saying we could go to work. And like, and I'm already nervous of like, I'm gonna get pulled over just because of like, people know me. Like, no, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad, but I will say I had an escort in Buena Vista once, and it wasn't a good kind. He just drove and followed me all through town. But that's also correlation versus causation. I say that, but more likely I was the only car in town at that hour, and so they followed me because that is suspicious. Like, that town shuts down at like 8, and if you're out past then you're out creeping or going to a party, doing drugs or something. But like, by creeping, I mean going and seeing your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or going and cheating. I don't know. That's like what really creeping is. But I also say that, but like when you're a kid living in your parents' house, you can't really do things. You can't. And then you go to college, and then it's all better. Or you move out of your parents' house and get your own place out of high school. I don't know. Either way, that's an awkward time, but that's like the time of exploration and experimentation. Still wouldn't call it adulthood yet, really. And that's hard because you want to say it's adult in the sense that, uh, I don't know, I'd say my kids are more adult than some of the adults I've met. Like, and I'm just kidding. Like, that's not real. I don't actually believe that because that's just confining, that's pigeonholing someone into entire, oh, come on. We get into that loop, but I don't know. It's not fair to say, but like, we got to trust the younger people that they understand things, but then at the same time, they're not fully developed. And I think that's kind of like a, oh, also, there's a lot of torches right there. Why is that? Like, that doesn't look like something I do or that I would have. Actually, let's go ahead and let's fix that because now that I've seen it, every time I go by it, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to be reminded that there's still that thing. All right. I'll put torches there. Because I also think, like, what if I turn this out of peaceful? Are mobs going to just spawn up everywhere? Maybe. I don't know. That's why I don't do it. Like, especially in a jungle. Like, they pop up everywhere. I guess the dark oak forest is worse. Sorry, we're going on about, like, like the war on drugs, substances, all these, like, really big topics. And then, like, oh, hey, look, squirrel. No, it really is. Like, the whole marijuana thing, I've heard a rumor that the government kept it illegal so they could control the hippies and the free thinkers, and that they almost basically created themselves anyway through the LSD experiments in the military and the government, because we were trying to expand our minds and all that. No, not saying that I've ever been in the military or the government or any of that, but like that's what Americans were thinking. Like that's what our government was thinking. Like, ooh, imagine if we could use this and because that's like, and remember the thinking behind that was we had just seen the Nazis and the Holocaust. Like, okay, well we can't let that ever happen again. And so that's why we had that feeling of we do it better than anyone. And that's why Russia and the U.S. have been banging heads because we feel like we can do it better than the other person. We even split Germany in the middle because we weren't really like, okay, like, hi, partner. Like, we still didn't trust the other one, especially when we dropped the atomic bomb and then they were like, well, I don't know what they did. Like, we dropped nukes on Japan. Like, I know that's like, good Lord, that was crazy. I mean, you want to talk about, and again, South Park addresses this chicken and cow. It's super racist and, but at the same time, it is funny. And as long as you're able to laugh at that sort of thing, without, because that's the other thing. Like if I meet someone, I'm not gonna like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's like taboo, but it's not. Like it's easily relatable. It's offensive, but then if you understand where they're coming from, that it's not said out of a place of hate or anger. It's said out of a place of like, let's laugh, let's come together and laugh about this, rather than, because it makes fun of white people and white trash, especially like more than anyone. And even me, a fan of comedy, I sometimes get offended watching Jeff Foxworthy and the Blue Collar Comedy Tour guys because it just hits too close to home. Just like Dave Chappelle, like, he had to go find, get back to his roots. I think going to Africa because he felt so bad about the jokes, or I don't know. I don't quote me on that. And like I feel bad because like I do look up to Dave Chappelle. He's a great comedian. He's a great guy. And then I feel like I worry about him. Like if he was having some kind of issues there. Like I get it, and like I hope he's okay. Like, and that's the thing I hope for everybody. And it's not some kind of, it's not some false. I think that's why we're all so cautious too, because we even warn about it in the Bible. It's like, false prophets, wolf in sheep clothing. Like, oh, it sounds too good to be true, or you got to read the fine print, or and that's it's a byproduct of greed and money being the root of all evil because it's a finite resource, kind of. All right. And I say that because I've heard a lot of people argue that like back when we had it backed by gold, like the US dollar and everything, it made sense. Everything was fine. Everything worked. But now that it's not and just everything's crazy runaway spending and debt and everything, but wait a minute. We had a vaccine that helped with corona like instantly. Granted, I'm a little worried about the funding behind that. That seems kind of like, oh, if it's dirty pool, then oh my gosh. But if it's legitimate, then okay. And see, that's why everybody's so upset. A lot of people are so upset. And that's why January 6th and all that was such a big deal, is because people are believing this. And whether it's true or not, that's the problem. So right there, communication is still causing our issues to this day. Like if you look at your watch and say, "Oh, when was the last time was communication was an issue?" Okay, the last time you had a relationship issue, the last time you had an issue with one of your family members, or even your friend. Maybe you spent too much time with your friend and then now you're fighting with your friend for something or whatever. Like, okay, was it communication? Was it really a problem? Or was the problem bigger than what you thought it was? And a lot of times it's just misunderstanding. Like, and spoken as someone with a lot of relationship issues, I laugh because it's really not that funny. Um, but I learned a lot. And from what I've learned is you need to approach everything with kind of not kid gloves, not lady gloves, not anything racial or, derogatory or oppressive in nature of that. Because even just saying stuff like that, like, I don't know, the Boondock Saints, I know we're over half an hour, but let's finish with that. The Boondock Saints, they say like, oh, it's the rule of thumb. And then this lady's like, well, they say that because that's how big of a stick you could hit women with and still get away with it. And then the Irish guy, being a smart aleck, was like, a rule of thumb can't really do much of that. It should have been a rule of wrist. And like, totally inappropriate. And it's kind of funny, you chuckle, but then it's like, wait a minute, wait, you're just talking about hitting women. And so deep down, anybody, you see someone hitting a woman, I don't care what culture it is, oh, it just like, it gets you. Like, it's never okay. And that's what we assume that people that don't let women as equals treat women like. But then you see like, oh, people get drunk and go beat their wife here, yet they're equal. And I don't know. So there's a whole nother episode about that. And it is time to go to bed. I'll see you all later. Have a good night. Sorry, we should end on a more peaceful note, but that's why we need to solve problems. That's why we need to be patient. That's why we need to be diligent. And also know when we're working too hard and like, end the process, start the process again, or do a different process. I don't know. Computer logic 101. Just kidding. All right. Have a good night, everybody. See ya.